Hello everybody, welcome back to English Champion. On this episode, more discussion about higher education. Colleges continue to look out for themselves first and foremost, instead of the broader culture. And colleges continue to not be honest with young people. So that's why I'm here. I'm the one who's honest with you about how colleges actually work. So we're going to talk about a topic today that is always in the news regarding employment. Saw an article just the other day from InsideHigherEd that said, bleak job landscape for today's degree holders. Subtitle, thanks to AI and changing hiring trends, bachelor's degree holders are seeing worsening employment outcomes. Experts say the only answer is more work-based learning. I'll explain what that means and how ironic that is here shortly. I'm not going to read this whole article. It's actually not very long. I'm just going to read a couple paragraphs. But it's getting to the data that has emerged that unemployment rates and underemployment rates for recent college graduates keep going up. And the problem is at the root of all of this with what higher education is actually based on. And that's what no one wants to address. And I'm going to show you how I've been talking about this for about 2 years now. And it's so obvious, the solution to this. And we know the solution is obvious because this has already been a problem with other types of students who I'll explain here in a second. And again, the answer is obvious, yet schools refuse to do this. Why? Because they're looking out for themselves, not for the students. So what's going on with employment and recent graduates? Well, the article says, for the first time, unemployment rates for young recent graduates are rising faster than for those without a college degree. At the same time, recent graduates are facing extremely high rates of underemployment, according to a new report from a workforce think tank. So how is that possible? How is it that you've been told all these years that if you go to college, you'll not only get a job, but you'll make more money than people who didn't? And we're finding out that, those people are having a very difficult time finding a job. And if they do find a job, it's in a field that did not require a college degree in the first place. That's the underemployment metric, which is what I've been saying. I'll come back to what I've been saying from previous episodes here shortly. The report paints a bleak picture of the employment landscape for young bachelor's degree holders in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic and amid the rise of artificial intelligence. Here's the data. More than half of the class of 2023, 52%, worked in a job that did not require a bachelor's degree 1 year out from college. Meanwhile, unemployment rates for young degree holders, those ages 20 to 24, rose a percentage point from the late 2010s to now. And over the same period, unemployment held about steady for high school graduates who never attended college and associate degree holders in academic degree programs, and actually decreased for those with occupational associate degrees. So a 2-year degree in a very specific vocation might prove to be helpful. But compared to those who never went to college in the first place, kids who went to college are actually doing worse in the employment metrics, which of course seems surprising because, again, all we hear about is how beneficial going to college is. There's another layer to this. So even if kids are getting jobs, the article says, layoffs too are hitting young workers harder than ever. The layoff rate for young degree holders has nearly doubled from pre-pandemic levels. These changes don't correlate with a larger economic downturn as similar unemployment trends among young people often did in the past, says one of the authors of the report. What he says is some of the companies, they've either stopped hiring or they've stopped hiring as many recent graduates. And when they are, they're less likely to be hiring new entries to the workforce as opposed to people with experience. So as I've always been saying, experience matters more than education. And so they're going to talk about experience and how you get that. But there's an easier way to do all of this if they would just commit to it. There are several likely reasons for this, according to the report. For one, companies are now relying on AI to complete tasks that recent graduates have historically done. Companies are also becoming less interested in training and investing in entry-level workers, preferring to maintain a smaller but more experienced team. So I think part of this is, those companies keep seeing that the kids who are graduating from college still don't know anything. And so they're going, wow, this, we don't mind doing a little bit of training because that's sort of understandable to get you used to the industry, but we have to do so much training. We have to start from the beginning. It's actually not worth it for us. We'd rather just streamline our company and work lean, and then we wouldn't have to deal with all you young people. So they're either doing that and just not hiring you at all, or they just figure out, we can just automate. So you're just being replaced by machines and computers, which is kind of inevitable. That's going to happen in a variety of industries. But that's why we've got to figure out which industries should students be going into if getting a job is your main focus from your college degree? Well, maybe we need to be going into certain careers that aren't necessarily AI proof, but which have an important human component to it, so that there's always work. And again, many of those don't actually require college. Those that do, as I've laid out in some of my previous episodes, there's really only a few industries that require a college degree. Yeah, that's what students should be focusing on. So then college is a good choice for them. But yeah, if you're going to be replaced by a machine, or you're just not useful enough to your company and they're just going to maintain the workforce they have, keep on some older staff because they're already experienced, they're cutting the training. Yeah, these young people are going to be hurting. And yet, what are we doing? We keep telling young people, keep going to college, keep getting educated, and you'll get a better job. It's like, no, you won't. This is the way the trends have been going for a while. This, especially the underemployed statistic, that's been going on for quite a bit now, where kids are realizing, oh, I'm getting my job out of college isn't one that actually required a college degree. Such shifts are reflected in a declining number of job listings for roles that require fewer than 3 years of experience, according to the report. So there's just fewer job opportunities available. Now, this is what I've been saying this whole time. You would be better off, unless you are in a field, an industry, and I've outlined like 5, that's about it if you watch previous videos of mine, that actually truly need college. Unless you're in one of those industries, you'd be better off at age 18 when you leave high school just going to start work. Join that industry. Find a company you think is cool and just beg to work there. Say you'll work for the lowest, the minimum wage. You're just wanting to get experience. Do that for 6 months, maybe a year, and watch how fast, if you're a good worker and you really put forth a lot of effort and you're eager to learn and you make connections within the company, watch how fast you move up that company, okay? So then that's 1 year down. And you do that for, maybe you go to another company because now they offer you a higher salary, or just stay at your current company and keep working your way up. But after 4 years, you will be experienced. You will have been making money this whole time, and you wouldn't have wasted 4 years and going hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt. You win on every level. For those industries that don't truly require a college degree, and the majority of industries are like that, you don't need college. You're better off just starting to work and skipping college altogether. And that's coming from someone who believes in college, okay? I've been a professor for most of my adult life, and I believe in the college experience. And I'm telling you, for almost every job, you don't need this. So if all you care about is a job, there's a better way to go about doing that and gaining experience and getting prepared for your future than going to college. There just is. You can do it. So go get started. Again, it benefits you in 3 ways. 1, you don't go into debt. 2, you're actually making money, so you're actually twice as wealthy over those years. And then next, as the article just said, the companies are very hesitant about dealing with anyone who has less than or fewer than 3 years of experience. Well, guess what? By the time you're 22, you've got 4 years experience. So your job is, I'm not going to say it's safe, but you're in a way better position than all those recent graduates who have 0 years of experience, or even recent graduates who have 1, 2, or 3 years of experience. Your 4 years puts you on a path toward moving up and making more money faster and just more smoothly without the wasted time than going to college would. That's what you should be doing. So as the metrics keep coming out that prove the point I've been making for 2 years, that, hey, there's a lot of jobs in the culture that don't require college degrees. And in fact, I think it's most of them. So if what you care most about is a job, you probably shouldn't go to college. Just start working. Because if you do, you're going to be ahead of all those other suckers who went to college thinking the college was going to help them with their job hunt. And it really doesn't. All right? So if you're going to end up in a job that's where you're underemployed anyway, well, better to be underemployed at 19 than at 22. Because then you still have all those years to work your way out of underemployment and get to a job that's actually something you really love, something you're going to devote the next 30 years to, something that pays you a good salary, whatever you care about. You have a huge head start. So it's a win for you in many different ways. The crazy thing that the article is about to offer is, well, how can colleges help? As I said at the beginning, the subtitle was about work-based learning. Now, I'm in favor of that. I think while you're in school, getting some hands-on experience is a very good thing. That's what, one, good teachers do. But also, I believe in internships and that kind of stuff. But that's where this article goes is, well, colleges should be doing a better job of hooking students up with companies that offer internships. And they're telling the companies, you should really be offering internships to get these young people in the door. It's like, okay, think of the irony of what you're saying. All right. Now, again, traditionally, I believe in that model, except with what's happening, that model seems silly, right? Because what are you offering? You're offering come to college, still go into debt. You're going to be 4 years behind, but maybe along the way, you'll get a little bit of internship experience, which, by the way, you have to do for free. Okay, what's the appeal of that? When the alternative is, well, I could skip this whole college thing altogether and all the massive debt that comes along with it and the waste of time taking all these classes I don't need when I really just want that type of job. And I can start working now and get the same experience you're going to offer in my internship, but now I get paid for it. So I get paid for it, I don't have the debt, and I don't waste the time. Why would I ever think that still going to college and just doing internships is my best path? That's silly. This is why colleges, like, who's giving these people advice on how to run their schools? It's just crazy. But again, it does make sense when you think of it from their point of view that, oh, they don't care about you and your employment prospects. They care about themselves. They care about keeping their doors open and making money off of you. So it's not about them caring about your career, because if they cared about you and your career, they'd say, don't come to our school. Sounds like you need a career or interested in a career that doesn't require 4 years of a degree. So just go get started. We wish you the best. Go to it. We want to be a school for people who truly want the college experience, who truly want the academic mentorship, who love the reading and research component of college, who want the social component of college where it's like, yeah, you get to spend a couple years around kids your own age and venture into some version of adulthood together. You make friends, you possibly find a spouse, you clarify what kind of life you want to have in the future. If that's what you want to use college for, great, we're glad to have you, because that's what we do here. But if all you care about is a job, and the job you want is in an industry that technically doesn't need a college degree, then don't come here. We'd be happier if you didn't, because we care about you and your future from an employment standpoint. So just go get started and good luck. But they never do that, do they? They only say, no, you still need college because even though no one's hiring, and if you do get hired, you're actually underemployed, and you should work for free as an intern, and none of that makes sense. So again, the colleges are just looking out for themselves, not you, the student, or you, the parent of a student. So when colleges keep talking about how important it is for students to come get a degree and they'll be more prepared at age 22 to go into the workforce, that's simply not true anymore for the vast majority of career fields. It's just not. So the big answer to all this that colleges will never admit to, and this is why they're going to keep struggling and why people are going to become more disillusioned with college and not want to pay the tuition, because the answer is right in front of them. And the reason we know that is because I was hearing it for many, many years when I was a student in my PhD program. This conversation about who should go to school and how many should they let in and are there enough jobs for the graduates, this has been going on for years at the PhD level. So the argument that often gets made for PhD programs and how many students do we let in, and are we flooding the market with too many PhD graduates and there aren't enough professorships for those people? Well, many people say the answer is very simple. Stop having so many PhD students at your university. And that makes sense. Like, if you're flooding the market and you're making everything less valuable, well, maybe you have too many, in this case, PhD students. So what's hilarious is that those same people never say that about the undergraduate level of education. It's very easy for everyone to go, well, we don't need so many PhDs. Well, why not? Well, they're kind of doing frivolous, some of them are doing some frivolous work anyway, and there's just not enough jobs for them. So let's just trim that out. We still need a few, that's fine, but maybe let's make it more rigorous. Maybe we need to be clearer for those applicants to say, for them to know that, hey, the job market is not great. There's already enough professors in the country. So If you want to get a PhD, just realize it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's going to be expensive for you. And there may not be the tenure track professorship that you're hoping for. So as long as you know that, then okay, you can come here. Otherwise, why not just make your program smaller? Well, again, there's a reason for that, and it's because it benefits the school, even though it's not great for the job market. So there's an article, just Google too many PhDs, as I did, and there's just article after article, even from the last couple months. This is a conversation that never goes away. Everyone always talks about this. And so I just pulled an article, this is actually from a couple years ago, from InsideHigherEd, and it talks about PhD oversupply. And so, again, I'll just share a couple quick paragraphs here to show you that this is a problem we're already very aware of with a different type of student. And the solution is very simple. So the article starts, every year in almost every discipline, newly minted PhDs outnumber tenure track job postings by a substantial margin. While that trend has gone on for decades, most PhD programs continue to maintain or even increase student enrollments and remain structured as a form of academic career training. Thus, growing numbers of PhD graduates are trained for and often expect an academic career that's not available to them. Okay, so that's very real. That was, when I was in my PhD program 15 years ago, that was a conversation we always had among my peers as well as with our professors. Like, hey, here's what the job market looks like. Here's how you can make yourself more marketable in a tough market where there's not so many openings for PhD professors, all that kind of stuff. So this has been going on a while, and it was probably going on before I ever went to get my PhD. But I also knew for myself, like, I still want to do it because I'm aware that maybe there aren't enough job openings. But I also felt like I'm pretty smart. I may not be the smartest person, but I'm definitely smarter than most. And the thing I'm definitely sure of is that I work harder than everyone. So I thought, well, this is the way to get where I want to go, which is to be a PhD level professor at a university, 4-year university. And it's going to be tough. I don't know if this is actually going to work, but I feel like if I can just get the credential, then, and the knowledge, I got to learn this stuff, but then I just outwork everybody, then I can demonstrate that I'm valuable to a school and I'll get hired. And that's exactly what happened. And I got the exact job I always wanted. I was, professor, and even got to build my own English program. That's how hard of a worker people saw me as, that they let me do those things. So it can work. You can still overcome the limited job market if you have the right type of knowledge and the right type of work ethic. But many of our students just don't have that. And again, they would be better served pointing that work ethic towards actual work instead of more college. So the article says, if we graduate too many PhDs, the obvious response is to admit fewer doctoral students. But which university or program will move first? We face a classic collective action problem. We might all be better off if overall doctoral enrollments decline, but each institution, department, and even faculty member benefits from maintaining or increasing their own doctoral student enrollments. The reasons are numerous, but to put it most simply, the modern university requires PhD students to keep everything else going. Same thing. It's the same thing at the undergrad level. All right. They say this about PhD because PhDs are more expensive than undergrad, so it brings in a lot of money. But the same thing actually happens at the undergrad level. They have to bring in more students in order to keep the system running. It doesn't matter to them that the students aren't qualified to be there. It doesn't matter to them that the students aren't going to be able to find work when they leave. It doesn't matter to them that the student is going to go into $200,000 of debt. It doesn't matter. As long as they're making money, this whole structure stays supported. So it's the same thing at the PhD level, and now we're learning it's actually the same thing at the undergrad level. So, well, what is this that props everything up? Well, one of the ways is that the more doctoral students you have and the more work they're producing, the better it looks to outside observers. And so you can say that you are a university that does tons of research and you do tons of publication, and so you look good by having more students produce more work and help the current professors do their work. So again, there's an incentive to grow the number of students because there's more opportunity to produce things, to serve the actual professors, and all that makes your school look good. What also happens is that a lot of research grant money is distributed to places that have robust, or at least the appearance of robust, doctoral programs. So again, there's money involved here. Without evidence of employing and training doctoral students, a school is at a disadvantage in future grant competitions. So they make money by you being there. So not only do they make money off your tuition, but they get money from the government or other institutes who want to do research by paying the school more money. So it's all about the money for these PhD students. And in case you haven't figured it out, it's also just about the money for undergrad students. And ultimately, in some cases, PhD students represent increased institutional revenue as well. For public universities, that may be built into government enrollment funding formulas that reward institutions for taking in more students, which with PhDs typically bringing in the most per head. So yeah, the more you can say you're growing, that you have all the student population, the government goes, oh, well, you must need more resources. So here's a bunch more money from the taxpayers. Or again, other institutions will say, well, here's a bunch of grant money because it looks like you're doing interesting stuff. So it's just about the money. They even admit that. So of course they're like, well, instead of trimming the doctoral programs, maybe we should adapt them with more professional training and help those people realize, here are some different industries you can go into outside of academia and whatever. Okay. So now you're implementing additional strategies that cost money because you got to do more training and provide more services. Because before it was just like, well, if you want to be a professor, like here's how you become a professor and this is the track you go on. Well, now if people are realizing, it's very difficult to do that, there aren't enough jobs, you're going to have to train those people on what other opportunities there are. Well, maybe they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Or if they were, like I was, I just knew what the market was going to be and I dealt with it myself. I didn't need someone to come in and train me and go, well, here's what else you could do. Just in case you don't get that tenure track job at a university, here are some other options. I didn't care about that. I thought, this is what I want to do. I'm going to figure out how to make it work because I'll just beat everybody. And that's what I did. So the fact that we already have this model that's been going for decades at the PhD level and we're not listening to it, where it's like, maybe just admit fewer PhD students. Then we wouldn't have this flood of overqualified people who are then underemployed. So again, an example of that would be like, you're a PhD in English literature and you end up teaching 7th grade English. Like, that's underemployed. You're way overqualified for that job, but you had to take it because there's nothing else available. Well, that's what's happening with the undergrad level. Like, you got a degree in marketing, okay? And you end up getting a job doing like just basic Instagram posting for some company that any teenager could do. Like, you're overqualified. So go do something that fits your skill set better. And you could have gained that skill set without 4 years of college. So that's where we should be pointing those students, again, who go into fields that don't specifically need the just intense level of background knowledge or some of the licensing that requires college degree. So once again, this is a topic I've been talking about for 2 years, and schools will continue to do this until parents and students put a stop to it and start just making other decisions with their lives and say, I don't think I need this. I'm going to go do something else and I'm just going to work hard and I'll be successful on my own because I don't want the debt and I don't want the 4 years of lag time that it's going to take for me to get the experience you think you want. So just go get started. And if they do that, then colleges might realize, hey, we got to change our model. We can't just keep relying on lying to students and saying, you need a college degree. You should come here. We're going to give you an internship where you have to do labor for free. Why would anyone want to do that? That's dumb when they could go and actually just get started on their career. So I'm hoping that in the coming years, as more and more universities start to realize this model that they've been implementing isn't sustainable, where they just churn these students and they don't care that they aren't qualified to get into the school. They don't care that many of them don't graduate. And again, they don't care that you're not actually getting a job in your field that required that degree. And until that changes, until the numbers start shifting in the other direction, I don't know what else could fix this because the administrators aren't going to listen to anybody. And I'm going to talk about the industry of consulting here in a future video, so be on the lookout for that. But this is what consultants should be telling them. Like, hey, you need fewer students. Stop telling all these kids to come here. You need to streamline your university. You need to cut spending on these frivolous things that, as we're seeing, don't actually amount to anything. You need to offer students exactly what they're searching for, Because if you're not doing that, why would they come to your school? You're just wasting time and money and resources. So this is, this is partly a job discussion, but as always with me, it's back to what the mission of a school is, what the administrative leadership is doing, and what choices the students are making. And I hope that students start choosing to just get started with their life. The world is changing in a way that does not require the level of academic background that was once needed. I know that's what everyone says, that, well, our increasingly complex world needs really intelligent, highly educated employees. No, it doesn't, actually. Automation and AI are taking over a lot of it, and we're finding out that those tools, if they're not outright replacing young people, they're helping the ones who are more experienced so much that we didn't need you anyway. We have a fundamental structure problem between the education and the employment sectors, and until students start choosing otherwise, we're going to keep seeing this data of continued unemployment and continued underemployment for recent college graduates. So I'm sorry that's a kind of a dark perspective, but that's just the reality of it. And again, I'm here to tell you the truth because I was in universities, all types of universities for many, many years, and I know how this goes. And the evidence supports what I saw all those years, and things have to change. And I've posted many ways that things could change in my recent episodes, so go check those out if you like. But I'll always keep looking out for you and telling you the truth, so keep checking back. See you next time.